Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I decided to do a collective read for us. My original intention with this channel was to be doing monthlies for the zodiac. Then I wanted to do bi-weeklies for the zodiac. I did a random love reading, and I wanted to do dailies. But the reality is I have a pretty intense neck injury that I'm dealing with, and it causes me quite a bit of pain. And it has been acting up in a pretty intense way lately. And essentially, what that means is I can't sit at a desk for very long. So this is going to be brief, but I just had the itch. I couldn't stay away, and I didn't want to leave those lovely people who have subscribed to the new channel hanging. So I thought I would do a read here just for the collective energies and see what's going on. If it's for you, great. If not, you can just leave it, take what you can, leave the rest. Some messages, because this is very general, will have multiple storylines in them. I do my best to sort of decipher it, but it's tricky without a specific person in mind or a specific question. So we'll see how it goes. Remember, I believe in divine timing, so regardless of the date that this is posted, when you come across it, it's potentially for you in that moment. And let's see what we have going on today for the collective. Already meditated with the cards. Now we'll just see what Spirit has for us. That's a few too many there. What does the collective need to know? Thank you if you have subscribed. I greatly appreciate it. I've been reading for several years now, but had been doing it every single day on my Facebook, and then decided to transition to YouTube, but it's been a little bit slow. I don't know how the algorithm works, so if you feel like it, please do subscribe. You can hit the little bell underneath to get notifications for when I post. Woo! Well, yeah, I'm reading today because the priestess is back. Love that. Let's just get a couple more out here and then we can paint a bit of a picture. We all know that the priestess is, I kind of feel like she's the queen of the underworld, but that makes it sound really, really dark. You know, she's an archetype that really represents our inner world and our magic. Just like how I say the Empress is the Beyonce of the tarot. I don't know who you would say that the high priestess is. For some reason I was thinking Marilyn Manson, but I don't know if he gets to be a priestess. I guess gender doesn't really matter when it comes to these things. Yeah, okay. So we've got a deep, deep desire to be embodying our magic, to be cruising through that shadow realm with more ease. I really get the sense that there's not a resistance to what's going on, but we've been in this energy for a long time. There's been I think that sort of going into autumn and winter, there is often a shift in our mood, right? So as the seasons change, there can be a bit of resistance to going into that hibernation mode because we're not recognizing the richness of what can be found at that time and what can be experienced as we're regenerating. And it's all going on underneath the surface. So if you imagine yourself like a tree, and that includes your mind, your body, and your spirituality, a lot of the stuff that goes on in the winter is happening under the surface, right? Like roots are growing deep. It's making you actually taller. You just can't see it because it's underground. And so that's very much the energy of what the priestess is doing. She's hard at work, right? And this, if you're male or gender non-conforming, that's okay. You can still embody the priestess energy. It's about that magic that's going on, really digging down deep, building roots, getting ready for a transformation, right? We talk about cycles a lot in the tarot, about how, death, the end of a cycle, and the world's new cycle, and many cards can represent this. But I think it's really important to recognize that not every cycle dies quickly, and not every new cycle comes bursting out and shooting up out of the ground that quickly. So the priestess represents a really, really interesting between space, which can be very uncomfortable for a lot of people. but it can also be very delicious and rich and mysterious and magical. That is like exactly what she represents. So trying to embody this, if there is that resistance, it's interesting because I hadn't been feeling any resistance to going through those realms recently. But, maybe that's just me. I'm only one person in the collective. I know that shadow work can be challenging for people, but, we've got our Five of Wands here. What's so funny about this card is it's like this. This card is like, to me, represents a battle of an internal nature. It's like all these voices inside your head, or all these voices inside of the psyche going, saying different things and wanting different things and pushing and pulling. And it's very unnecessary energy because if you look very closely, they're all dressed differently. They all have different opinions. This one over here has really got something to say, and this one over here is super angry. They're just all over the place. But what's funny is that they're all on even ground. No one knows better than the other one. And it's interesting being the person looking at this card, because that's also you looking at all the different voices trying to have their say. And the conflict is unnecessary. Everyone could have a turn if you would just allow each person to get the microphone for just a moment, to pipe in, for you to listen and for you to consider that instead of pushing it away. It's like when we try to push away feelings that we would label as negative or bad emotions. If you actually just make space for them and allow yourself to feel it, from a more detached and more accommodating and compassionate way, those feelings will pass because they lose their power. So it's the same thing with all these opinions and this resistance to the process of going where the priestess needs to go. This is resistance, this is confusion, this is arguing with oneself, going around in circles, and it's very unnecessary. They're all on even ground, and you're the person looking into this scene, and you're the one who can calm the chaos of the fives. Fives represent chaos, sometimes crisis. This is just, it could just be one day. It could just be today. It could be an ongoing thing. But this is turmoil. It's internal. This can be overwhelm and a lot of ideas because it is fire energy with the wands. But I do find that this card can represent the mental space as well, kind of similar to our sword energy. It's just confusion, conflict, too many voices. So the advice with this one is simply just to, instead of pushing it all away and getting completely overwhelmed, just try and listen to each one. Really take a moment to feel into, okay, what is this part of me trying to say? And then thank it for its opinion and move on to the next one. You don't have to believe the voice that's telling you that you're getting nothing accomplished or that you're lazy. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with the voice that tells you right before you go out that you don't look good, that you should go change, or you should have straightened your hair or curled it or whatever. You can listen to that, acknowledge that that voice has a role in your psyche. It's trying to keep you safe. It's trying to make sure that you'll be accepted. Or, the other one saying that you're lazy is one that's just trying to make sure that you survive, get the work done, have food on the table, earn your money, whatever it is you need to do. So acknowledge them for the role that they're trying to play. Give them your gratitude, but you don't actually have to accept or agree with the voices. What's interesting is that we got the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups represents kind of a nostalgic feeling. It's really tapping into the inner child. I don't know, there's a little bit of heaviness with it today, which is funny because it's usually a very light card, joyful, playful, connecting with family, connecting with siblings and reminiscing, maybe childhood friends, but there seems like there's a bit of a heaviness today. And I think that perhaps of all the voices that we're listening to right now that have opinions and things that are coming up, one of the major archetypes that Carl Jung, who I love to talk about, that he identified was called the divine child. So you've probably heard in modern psychology and in pop psychology the term the inner child just getting thrown around all the time. But everyone has an idea of what that means because it's a pretty major archetype. So I would say that the feeling I get right now is that the current internal conflict is that there's some challenges coming up right now within the collective and within you, with the inner child really having some things to say. And the inner child we often put into the driver's seat of things that it's not appropriate for them to be controlling. So until we recognize that we're doing it, we don't know that the inner child is trying to control your dating life, is trying to control your sex life, is trying to control your decision making, really important decisions, career, school, all of these different things. And it's all based from a part of you that didn't necessarily get needs met when you were a child. So now as an adult, it plays an important role, but it should not be in control of these particular things. So right now I get the sense that the priestess archetype is really going to help you navigate what feels like quite a bit of internal conflict and resistance, which is oriented around the needs of your inner child. So it's really important to settle in and have a conversation there and figure out what it is that your inner child is asking you for and what it's getting in the way of. Because once you do that and you figure out what needs need to be met, then you can give, then you can give the inner child a different role, right? You can take your power back. Yeah, really, really important. So then we have the Hermit card as well. So the Hermit card, this is another guiding archetype for sure. The Hermit, I really love that these are coming out. They're my two favorite archetypes, actually, the High Priestess and the Hermit. So what I love about this is that inside that lantern right there is not actually a candle, it's the Merkaba star. And the Merkaba star to me represents divinity. It also is depicted in much of a yogic culture to represent the heart chakra. So this is moving into a time of really, really exploring what's in your heart. And all of these characters that I speak of, the different voices, they're not actually in your head, they're in your heart space, right? We sort of imagine, one of my incredible teachers talks about a round table in your heart center, and then you get to sit in the throne of the heart, and then the round table is where everyone else, all these other voices, get to come and sit, but you get to sit at, I don't know if our round table actually has a head, but you know what I mean, sitting in the throne and listening to what everybody has to say. So this is just kind of a symbolic nod to that heart chakra healing that's going on, and the Hermit does that alone. The Hermit does that alone, but also recognizes that they're never alone because the Merkaba represents their divinity and their connection to the divine. And the divine is always surrounding us with love, but it's a subtle communication, and it takes dropping in and deciding that you're going to look for the synchronicity and that you're going to look for the signs. Otherwise, it can pass us by quite easily. So really going into Hermit mode and recognizing that it's okay to be going into a bit of a wintry hibernation, even if it's just for today. I'm not saying that this will be a long-term thing. You never know. I think that there's also, this could be you, this could be someone else in your life, but this King of Wands represents a fiery energy, an individual. It could be a sexual partner. It could be someone that you care about. It could be you being very determined and feeling like, it's funny because they have creative mastery. That's what the kings represent. But in this, it's funny. You can look at the same card and it can have a different energy to it each time. He looks very stubborn right now. Usually to me, he looks very determined. Looks really stubborn. Maybe a possibility that a person that you're trying to communicate with right now, or that is stirring up a lot of these inner child challenges, is someone, an individual who is very set in their ways, is very set in their opinions, sort of has this one-track mind, looking at that wand there, and is not really able to see past what's going on and their own stubbornness, but we'll clarify that one. And there's a feeling of either you or them trying to get away from what needs to be done. right? So this card is a tricky one for a lot of reasons. Oh, sorry, itchy nose, must be tapped in. Oh. So this is someone, could be you, could be your person, looking at a situation and just trying to get away without necessarily dealing with everything that needs to be dealt with, without addressing everything. And in the haste to get away is leaving things unfinished, leaving important things behind. There's another interpretation of this card, which is also this individual could know that something bad is going to go down at the festival or is going to go down at the circus that they're moving away from. And so what they're doing is they're trying to save or salvage some things and then get away. But it really is, it's the sneak card. It's the sneaky card. And it's linked with this King of Wands here. So the King of Wands is either you or it's someone else. And, being sneaky and the process isn't complete. I'm just trying to get away. Just trying to get away, not wanting to deal. That's very interesting. And this is air energy. So it represents thoughts. So it's thinking certain things and leaving behind other thoughts. So there's the potential here for not necessarily considering all things. It really, it has an energy of the King of Wands with that stubbornness, just being like, no, this is how I am. I'm not changing, or believing that I cannot change, and then just trying to get away with that, sneak away with that, and not actually winning, not really getting much from that, thinking that this is the easiest way to go, and still having to carry, swords are heavy, right? And still having to carry all of them and run off with it and being like, well, I'm set in my ways and I'm sticking with this and I'm getting away from, I don't have to listen to these other thoughts or ideas here. I'll be safer over here. And yet you're carrying this huge burden. Versus if they were to put that down and consider the other swords here, maybe they'd only need those two and it would set them free because they wouldn't have to carry the burden of the other five. So it's an important consideration. Wow, that's a very interesting story. Yeah, so let's get a little bit of clarification. Let's see. I'm going to use the Goddess deck here. Interesting energies coming through. Let's clarify our High Priestess. Don't know if the High Priestess wants to be. Okay, we've got another king here. Oh, and we've got Isis. It's funny. So in this deck here, she technically represents the Magician, which is more manifestation. But isn't that funny that Isis and our priestess are wearing the same crown, wearing the same hat there that represent the waxing and waning moon and then the full moon in the middle there. So the clarification could be about manifestation, but I really think this is sort of just a nod to the priestess, that Isis energy. And she's one of the, Isis is one of the beautiful deities that I call in. For protection, while navigating, she's in a very protective pose. It's funny, when I first called her in, the response that she gave me was no, and I thought that meant she didn't want to work with me, and it would happen every single time I tried to call upon Isis, and it took me forever to finally realize that what she was she was saying no to the things around me that I needed protection from. Go figure. So she was working with me the whole time, but she's very much a... So maybe what needs to happen is in your priestess energy, as you're navigating what seems like a challenging situation with your King of Wands here, and the King of Wands seems to be trying to get away with something, or maybe you're trying to get away from the scenario, but it's stirring up so much inner child stuff for each of you. Oh, itchy nose. Might sneeze. Oh, maybe. Oh, excuse me. So tapped in. There's a protection element that you are being advised. It's not shut down, it's just be aware. Be aware that there are things that you are, like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on with that person. The only thing you can truly know is what's going on with yourself, and it's really, really important to, be aware that you don't have the whole story. I don't know if you're going to get the whole story. Yeah, this conflict card was, the King of Swords came out with it, and I don't know if that was for our conflict, our Five of Wands, if that was clarifying. I was asking about the High Priestess when it came out as a clarifier. So potentially this could just be a need for clarity and decisiveness. So this could be you sitting in the throne of the heart, that king energy, which in this deck is actually a queen. They swapped them because it's a goddess deck. So it's very grounded, it's open and compassionate. This could be your higher self sitting in the throne of the heart, listening to all of the voices, but being very clear that if they want to talk, they can't be talking over one another. There can't be this chaos. They need to settle. I think that's what that is about. So let's look at this Six of Cups. It's easy. Oh my goodness, this deck. Very slippery. Let's do it this way. We need to know about our Six of Cups. Sounds like a tricky situation you've got going on with this person. Ooh. That's way too many. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, that's interesting. We got the Seven of Swords again. Yeah. So whether it's you or the other person, someone's trying to get away without finishing the work. It's like it's refusing to acknowledge certain perspectives and choosing to carry the heavier burden. It's like someone's making the choice to have to carry more than they need to. If they would just wake up and consider something else, they would be able to put down this huge burden that they look like they've been carrying for an awfully long time. Yeah, this is, I don't want to be like, oh, it's so silly, but it's funny to me that that came out twice in this reading. Someone is making the choice to be stuck in their head, be stuck in their old patterns. And the reason why I think it's old patterns is because it's coming in under the Six of Cups. So it's it's not a nostalgic thing. It's the inner child stuff, and that comes from our childhood, right? The traumas and the challenges that happen that set up our shadow self, which is what happens in our childhood, and then we have to navigate it as an adult through the individuation process. You know, the inner child stuff that's coming up right now, and it probably feels quite overwhelming, is what's being, like, what the person, whether it's you or your person, is refusing to let go of. And if you listen to the voices, you're going to be able to determine which ones to engage with and which ones not. It seems like both of you are kind of in hermit mode, but someone's moving towards progress and someone is hanging on to old patterns. I don't know who's doing what, but it's something to think about. Okay, let's clarify our Hermit card, please. Eight of Pentacles. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness gracious. Eight of Pentacles. Okay, so Eight of Pentacles is doing the work. Someone's doing the work. That's good. It's lovely. It's a spring energy. It's earthy. It's beautiful. It's not wintry and cold, like kind of the vibe that I was getting from all this sword energy, which is sort of like this desert, and yeah, interesting. So this seems very much like the opposite of the vibe we get from the Hermit, right? He's wearing the cloak, kind of looks like Santa Claus, and he's standing in the snow at the top of a mountain. Well, this person's also doing the work, but they're doing it down in the field in the beautiful, beautiful summer, spring energy, and it's so rich and lush, and they're doing it creatively. They've got paints down here. It looks like two people are in a really interesting process. Yes. And someone is choosing to be in the cold, and someone is choosing to do their process in the light, choosing to ultimately, I mean, I think they will both be successful and it will be fruitful, but, you know, it's like, are you choosing to be lonely while you do this, or are you choosing to enjoy solitude? That's an important thing to consider. I keep saying that, important things to consider. But they are the messages that come through. And you can take it or leave it, right? Oh, golly. Okay. Let's clarify our King of Wands. What is our King of Wands all about? What do we need to know? Okay. Our king is feeling really down and very much left out in the cold, right? And it's like, it's interesting that we have two characters. One of them looks up and can see, this one back here, looks up and can see that this process will be fruitful, so they're making the choice to do it anyways. And then there's one who's in the process, not by choice, and is really not getting anything from it, is really not making any progress. They're just stewing around in their own sadness or frustration, or, you know, just not making progress. So it's interesting that you have the two perspectives. It's kind of like you can look at a difficult situation in two different ways. You can look at it as a learning experience and then use that to comfort yourself as you move through it, or you can resist the experience, and it's going to be a learning experience no matter what, but are you going to roll with it? Are you going to try to learn the lessons with, you know, an open third eye, or are you going to shove your face down against the coal and just go, I don't want to deal with this? It's that getaway energy. It's interesting. Okay, so let's clarify. I mean, we already have it twice here, but our Seven of Swords, what do we need to know? What do we need to know? Our Seven of Swords, please. Sorry, they keep almost coming out. And then Princess of Cups on the bottom. I love it. It's that emotional maturity. Ooh, what did we get? Who's that? Yeah. So there's potential here, right? Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups. It's interesting because in other decks, the Nine of Cups means emotional satisfaction, and it's really funny because she's sort of just lying here on the field and she's looking at one cup. She's got everything else, but she's looking at that one cup. And it's funny because it reminds me of the energy of the Four of Cups, which is not noticing this beautiful offering of love being offered by the divine, sort of coming out of the air like a hand. So it's weird that, you know, that I'm sort of feeling that energy looking at this card right now, because that's not what the card is supposed to represent, but I really do get that feeling where it's like she's got so much goodness in her life, she, he, they, doesn't matter, and yet they're fixated on this one cup, this one thing that's missing to have full emotional fulfillment. Isn't it funny? Yeah, wish fulfillment. It didn't happen. And yet there's so much to be grateful for, so much emotional maturity, so much was learned. Yeah, really, really incredible. Nine of Cups is a great card, you know, it's so far through the series of all the steps of learning, and this is emotional learning, emotional mastery. She's almost one of the royals. So, but it's not quite wish fulfillment. There's possibility. It will come, but you know, something potentially feels like it's missing, but it's definitely a nod to understand that an attitude of gratitude is very necessary at this time. Yeah, maybe that king, in their stubbornness and their desire to get away rather than deal with the scenario, or put their burden down, they could just put the burden down and look at the other two swords, which probably would make a nice replacement for whatever like mental prison that they've kind of created for themselves. Doesn't seem like they're doing that at this time. So, new beginnings. That was the next card. This is our Fool card, Tara. Tara is the goddess of compassion. She's one of my favorite goddesses and guides. She's absolutely wonderful. You know, I'm always talking about self-compassion. The only thing you can do in this scenario right now is to give it compassion. Give yourself compassion, give the other person compassion, come back to your divinity, be as centered as possible in yourself. And that's the only way to navigate it at this point, because it looks like, people, two tracks here doing their own thing, and it doesn't seem clear whether or not it's going to come together and have some sort of resolution, but new cycle is happening for you, which is great. So take it, do the work, do what you can in the scenario, but take what you can, into the new cycle. Let's do this one. Sorry, this is a much longer read than I meant to do. Here goes the tribe. Yes. Okay. This is after your hermit mode, go find your people. Go find your people. It's like the new beginning. You're gonna know that it's happening when all of a sudden it feels like your tribe is either like really coming back to you, or you're coming back to them. You're ready to come out of hermit mode, or maybe a new opportunity opens up for you and like an entirely new tribe comes into your life, new people, and you're like, oh my gosh, these people are too cool for school. Am I one of them? And it looks like a truth is going to come out as well. Sorry, I just kept shuffling, didn't mean to. Yeah, a truth will come out. Maybe it's speaking yours, maybe it's hearing theirs in this scenario. Yeah, I really don't know about that. The masks are going to come off, and then you can sort of make your judgment call from there. But that's what October was all about, right? All of those zodiac readings. If you haven't watched yours yet, go check them out, because they're monthly energy. It still applies, and it was so amazing how much similarity there was in all 12 of them. Different storylines, but it was all about like a truth needing to come out and communication needing to happen and balancing of the scales, which is like very Libra energy, which is what we're in. Yeah, shifting out of that soon, I think, into Scorpio. I'm not an astrologer, I don't know these things, but yeah, really, really profound. So recognizing that you're going to know that the new beginning, the Fool energy in Tara, beautiful, compassionate Tara, the goddess Tarot, you're going to know because you're going to have a new tribe, or your tribe is going to be like, hey, where have you been? Where have you been? Come back to us. Oh my gosh. Or yeah, making some new friends. It's going to feel super fresh. It's going to feel really, really new, and that's exciting because this has been a pretty stagnant energy and situation for a long time for October. And apparently a truth is going to come out, so be ready for that and be grounded in yourself, or yeah, be grounded in yourself to receive it or to deliver it. That's really, really important. Oh, I love that. That was a lot, twice as long as I meant to go. But anyways, love you lots. Yeah, just so you know, my neck is on fire. It's very painful. I'm not going to be doing this for a while. If you do want private reads, you can still reach out to me. I'm not moving through them nearly as quickly as I would like to. I'm sorry, but if you do want one, reach out. That would be really, really lovely. I'm still happy to do that for you, but the dailies on the channel and the monthlies might be on hold for a little while. But who doesn't love a random one every once in a while? All right, sending you lots of love.